That deep, shimmering green-gold finish immediately sets the tone for what you're about to experience. It's not just a color. It's a statement from a different era, a reminder of a time when American automakers weren't afraid to experiment with bold metallic hues and elegant personal luxury styling. The moment you lay eyes on this 1973 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, you realize it's not simply another classic coupe sitting on a dealer lot. It's a remarkably preserved survivor, an unrestored time capsule that has somehow resisted the wear, fading, and deterioration that usually claim cars of this vintage. To fully appreciate this Monte Carlo, it helps to understand where it fits within the broader history of Chevrolet. For decades, Chevrolet built its reputation on affordable, practical automobiles designed for everyday Americans. Reliability and value were the pillars of its identity. But by the 1950s, the brand began to explore the more upscale side of the market. Models like the Chevrolet Bel Air introduced a level of style and trim that elevated Chevrolet beyond its strictly budget-friendly image. The momentum continued with the Chevrolet Impala and later the Chevrolet Caprice, both of which added more refinement and comfort to the lineup. By 1970, Chevrolet was ready to take another bold step. The American market was shifting, and buyers were increasingly drawn to personal luxury coupes. Cars that combined sporty two-door styling with upscale appointments and a smooth ride. Pontiac had already entered the arena with the Pontiac Grand Prix, and Chevrolet responded by unveiling its own contender, the Monte Carlo. Built on the Chevelle platform, the Monte Carlo offered familiar mechanical underpinnings wrapped in a more elegant and elongated body. It was a formula that worked immediately. In its inaugural year, the Monte Carlo moved nearly 146,000 units, an impressive achievement that confirmed Chevrolet had tapped into a growing demand. Despite the looming energy crisis of the early 1970s and tightening emissions regulations, Monte Carlo sales continued to climb. By the mid-1970s, annual production exceeded 300,000 units, and in 1977 the model reached an all-time high of 411,038 examples sold. These were staggering numbers for a personal luxury coupe, and they cemented the Monte Carlo as one of Chevrolet's most successful nameplates. Over the years, the model would remain in production through 1988, return again from 1995 to 2007, and ultimately span 32 model years in showrooms. Few Chevrolet badges have enjoyed such longevity. Yet, for all its historical success, the first-generation Monte Carlo has not skyrocketed into six-figure territory like some of its muscle car contemporaries. Today, the classic Monte Carlo remains relatively attainable. With many examples still on the road, the market hasn't pushed average prices beyond the reach of most enthusiasts. While one standout example crossed the six-figure mark at auction in 2021, the average selling price typically remains below $30,000. The second-generation cars, produced in even greater numbers, over 1 million units, generally trade for even less, often around $17,000 on average. For owners hoping for dramatic appreciation, this reality may feel disappointing. But for buyers, it represents opportunity. And that opportunity becomes even more compelling when a car like this green-gold 1973 Monte Carlo surfaces. Priced at $27,895, it sits above the average value for a 1973 model in typical condition. However, this is not a typical Monte Carlo. It is an unrestored survivor, and that distinction carries significant weight among collectors. The term survivor is sometimes overused in the classic car world. Many cars are described that way simply because they haven't been fully restored. But in this case, the description is entirely justified. This Monte Carlo isn't a vehicle that languished in a damp barn, emerging decades later with surface rust, peeling paint, and a tired interior. Instead, it appears to have been carefully preserved, likely stored in a climate-controlled or at least heated garage for much of its life. The paint retains its shine, the body panels look straight, and the chrome trim still reflects light with surprising brilliance. The interior is perhaps the most astonishing aspect of all. Finished in white upholstery, it presents a nearly flawless cabin that defies the car's 53-year age. White interiors are notoriously difficult to maintain. They show dirt easily, discolor over time, and often develop cracks or stains. Yet this Monte Carlo's seats and door panels display minimal wear. The stitching appears tight, the surface is clean, and the overall impression is one of extraordinary care. It's hard not to wonder how previous owners managed to keep the cabin in such pristine condition for more than half a century. The odometer reads 79,018 miles, or roughly 127,167 kilometers. That relatively modest mileage suggests the car spent considerable time off the road. It wasn't used as a daily driver for decades. Instead, it was likely driven sparingly and stored responsibly, preserving not only its mechanical components, but also its cosmetic integrity. Mileage alone doesn't guarantee condition, but in this case, it aligns perfectly with the vehicle's overall presentation. Under the hood, the Monte Carlo retains its numbers-matching V8 engine, another critical factor in its appeal. The 1973 model year offered several engine options. This particular coupe was ordered with a 350 cubic inch, 5.7-liter V8. What remains unclear is whether it is equipped with the standard 145 horsepower version or the optional 175 horsepower variant. Either way, the 350 provided smooth, reliable power that suited the Monte Carlo's personal luxury character. For buyers seeking even more muscle, Chevrolet also offered a 454 cubic inch, 7.4-liter big block V8 rated at 245 horsepower. While this example does not feature the 454, the presence of its original 350 still adds to its authenticity and long-term value. In 1973, Chevrolet sold nearly 250,000 Monte Carlos. That same year, the coupe earned the prestigious Car of the Year title from Motor Trend. The award recognized the model's blend of style, comfort, and engineering during a transitional period in the automotive industry. The early 1970s brought new safety requirements, emissions controls, and shifting consumer expectations. The Monte Carlo managed to adapt while maintaining its identity as a stylish, upscale two-door. This specific car's journey through the collector market adds another layer of intrigue. According to its VIN history, it was previously sold at a GAA auction in 2025 for $14,500. Just months later, in January 2026, it crossed the block again at the Kissimmee 2026 event, selling for $19,800. Now, with a current asking price of $27,895, it carries a noticeable premium over its most recent auction result. That jump may raise eyebrows, but it also reflects the dealership's confidence in the car's condition and desirability. Dealers often price vehicles above auction levels to account for overhead, preparation, and negotiation room. The key question, of course, is whether the Monte Carlo is truly worth nearly $28,000. Value in the classic car market is rarely absolute. It depends on condition, originality, documentation, regional demand, and buyer emotion. An unrestored survivor in exceptional cosmetic shape can command a premium because originality cannot be replicated. Once a car is restored, it loses that untouched authenticity. Paint can be redone. Upholstery can be replaced. Engines can be rebuilt. But a genuine, well-preserved factory finish and interior are irreplaceable. This green gold Monte Carlo offers exactly that kind of authenticity. It represents what Chevrolet customers would have experienced walking into a showroom in 1973. The color, the trim, the stance, and the overall ambience capture a moment in automotive history. For collectors who value preservation over perfection, that quality is priceless. At the same time, the broader market context cannot be ignored. With many first-generation Monte Carlos still available, buyers have options. Some may prefer to purchase a less expensive example and invest the difference in upgrades or personalization. Others might seek a big block car for additional performance. Still, for someone who specifically wants a low mileage, unrestored, numbers-matching 1973 coupe in remarkable condition, this car stands out. Ultimately, the worth of this Monte Carlo comes down to perspective. To a casual observer, it might seem overpriced compared to average sales data. To a dedicated enthusiast who appreciates originality, rarity of condition, and documented auction history, it may represent a fair deal. The green gold paint, the immaculate white interior, the numbers-matching V8, and the award-winning model year pedigree combine to create a package that is increasingly difficult to find. As time moves forward, true survivors become rarer. Many classic cars are restored, modified, or simply worn down by decades of use. A 53-year-old coupe that still shines with its factory paint and maintains a nearly flawless cabin is something special. Whether the current asking price holds firm or becomes subject to negotiation, one thing is certain. This 1973 Chevrolet Monte Carlo is far more than just another used car. It is a preserved chapter of American automotive history, waiting for the next caretaker to recognize its value and carry its story into the future. And when you step back and consider the broader landscape of 1970s American cars, the appeal of this Monte Carlo becomes even clearer. The early part of the decade marked a turning point for the industry. New safety regulations brought bulkier bumpers, emissions standards reduced horsepower figures across the board, and the oil crisis reshaped consumer priorities almost overnight. Yet within that challenging environment, the Monte Carlo managed to maintain its identity as a stylish, confident personal luxury coupe. It wasn't designed to be a tire-shredding muscle car. It was built to cruise comfortably, to glide down highways with effortless composure, and to project understated prestige. The 1973 redesign itself was significant. It introduced a more substantial body structure, improved impact protection, and updated styling cues that gave the Monte Carlo a slightly more formal presence. The long hood and short deck proportions remained, reinforcing the car's elegant silhouette, while the sweeping lines and hidden headlamps continued to define its personality. In green gold, those lines are accentuated beautifully. The metallic finish catches the light in a way that highlights the sculpted fenders and crisp character creases, reminding you why these cars looked so striking in showroom windows more than 5 decades ago. What truly separates this example from many others is the harmony between its exterior and interior preservation. Often, you'll find a classic with decent paint but a tired cabin, or a restored interior paired with faded bodywork. Here, both elements appear to have aged gracefully together. The white upholstery, dash, and trim pieces still convey the atmosphere of a well-kept luxury coupe rather than a heavily used relic. Even small details, switchgear, brightwork, and trim accents seem to reinforce the impression that this car was treated with consistent care rather than occasional attention. From a driving perspective, the numbers matching 350 V8 ensures that the Monte Carlo retains the character Chevrolet originally engineered into it. While horsepower figures in 1973 were modest compared to the muscle car peak just a few years earlier, the emphasis had shifted towards smoothness and drivability. The 350 delivers a relaxed torque curve, ideal for effortless acceleration and comfortable cruising. Paired with an automatic transmission, it provides the kind of refined, easygoing experience that defined the personal luxury segment. There's also something emotionally compelling about driving a car that hasn't been altered or modernized. In a world where many classics receive aftermarket wheels, updated stereos, or performance modifications, a survivor like this offers an unfiltered connection to its era. The steering feel, the sound of the engine, the scent of original materials inside the cabin. These sensory details combine to create an authenticity that restoration alone can't fully replicate. Financially, the Monte Carlo occupies an interesting position. It's not priced at an unattainable level, yet it commands more respect than a typical used classic from the 1970s. That balance may actually work in its favor long term. As collectors increasingly value originality and documented history, well-preserved examples tend to stand out in a crowded marketplace. Even if the Monte Carlo never becomes a six-figure staple, the rarity of untouched survivors could gradually elevate the best examples above the average. In the end, this green gold 1973 Chevrolet Monte Carlo represents more than just an asking price. It represents continuity, an unbroken line from its original delivery to its present-day condition. It tells a story of careful ownership, responsible storage, and appreciation for what the car was from the beginning. Whether the dealership negotiates slightly or holds firm near its current figure, the right buyer will recognize that they aren't simply purchasing transportation. They are acquiring a remarkably preserved slice of 1970s American automotive culture. For anyone who values originality, subtle luxury, and the enduring charm of classic American coupes, this Monte Carlo makes a compelling case. It stands as proof that sometimes the most impressive restorations are the ones that never had to happen at all.